Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? It's Buns, and welcome back to the Road to Gladiator. Tonight, you guys have been asking for it. It's an Ellie Shaman talent breakdown video. I'm going to cover the talents and honor talents. I've now gotten almost a month time playing on my Ellie Shaman. I have a great feel for the class, and I'm going to give you guys the way in on what talents you should be using, and give you guys some situational talents you can use as well, too, when you are playing in PvP combat. So, for the first row in our talents here, we're going to look at Totem Mastery. Now, Totem Mastery, I would say 85% of the time is going to be your pick. But this first row is interesting. I'm going to start with Totem Mastery and break it down a little bit, and then I'll talk about the other two. So, Totem Mastery is just great. Overall, if you have the time and ability to just hardcast, do damage, Totem Mastery is going to be the way to go. You can even make an argument when you're not able to even hardcast that Totem Mastery is still great. It gives you 2% haste, increase the amount of damage you're doing with Flame Shock, which is one of your highest damaging abilities over time for pressure in the arena. You also have Storm Totem, which is going to increase your Mastery proc, and as an Elemental Shaman, our Mastery is Elemental Overload. When we're casting spells like Ice Fury, Chain Lightning, Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, you have a chance percentage to get a second proc that does 75% of the damage, and Maelstrom returns as well too. This Totem Mastery plays into buffing your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning by an extra 10% on those spells, which is great. You're using that a lot when you're in the arena. Very helpful. Good combo as well too with your Stormkeeper, which is our artifact. Now, you also get a little bit of Maelstrom per second, so it gives you just like a nice rounded out little bit of everything, which is good. Especially the haste is really overvalued. Now, there are situations where you can use the other two. When you want to use Totem Mastery is when you're going to be able to feel like you can free cast the majority of the time, get your damage out, and not have to worry quite as much about casting or kicks on the enemy team. So, when you run into a situation where you feel like you're going to be tunneled by two melee extremely hard and you're not going to be able to get cast off, or if you run into a situation where you're playing a team like Resto Shaman, Warlock, Feral Druid, and they just have a ton of kicks and you feel like you're going to get locked down specifically in the team comp you're running, you can consider running the other two talents, which are also good as well too, just not as high value as Totem Mastery. So, Path of Flame is going to allow us to have 5% more damage on our Lava Burst, and our Flame Shock can spread to nearby targets. Now, this is a talent where you want to take if you're playing against melee teams, in my opinion, because if they're stacked up, if let's say you're playing against something like TSG and you're fighting a warrior and a DK and they're stacked up, maybe they're on you, maybe they're on a teammate or on your healer, using this in this situation is great because you may swap from target to target, and on top of that, it will spread on both targets instantaneously, and you'll be able to have more Lava Burst procs that you won't have to think about as much by using the global, by not having to use the global, rather, for using Path of Flame, as it will spread to the next target, and you'll have more Lava Burst procs, do a little bit more damage with that. I think that that's great when you have teams that are stacking on top of each other. It's a good talent usage. Now, you can also go Earthen Rage as well too, which is better than people think it is. It actually is a considerable amount of damage. This is something that I have been using a lot recently over the past couple of days, and it ends up coming around like 9th, 8th in damage for me, which is actually like considerable. I think that this is a good talent to go if you're not going to be able to cast and you're going to sit on one target. Now, the spell does itself let you bounce around from target to target, and it goes off of your last target that you've hit. It'll start using Earthen Rage damage into that target, but I think that Earthen Rage is better for single target situations when you're not able to cast, as opposed to Path of Flame, which is a little bit more sporadic, and you can use Lava Burst on either target and swap around. Earthen Rage does a little bit more damage in terms of like a single target. Path of Flame is going to give you a little bit more pressure to hit whatever you want by having more Lava Burst damage, and also being able to have those Flame Shocks going instantaneously, not having to spend those globals on them. The first row is interesting. I would say 85% of the time you're going to take Totem Mastery if you can cast, but if you do feel like you're being hindered, go Earthen Rage if you feel like you want to hit one target for the majority of the game, or Path of Flame if you're playing two melee that are going to be stacked on top of each other and benefit from the extra Lava Burst damage that you're getting from that. Now, the 30 row is pretty much a no-brainer. At this point, I have no idea why Gust of Wind is even a talent. It should just be baseline for Shamans. No idea why it's a talent. The other two options in this row are horrible. They're just horrible, horrible options. They really need to reconsider working this row on Elemental Shamans, because a 15-second cooldown compared to 2-minute cooldowns that basically do nothing for you, it's a no-brainer. This is an absolute must-take Gust of Wind. It's best every time. Now in your 45 row, the majority of the time you're going to want to take Earth Grab Totem. The main reason that Earth Grab Totem is extremely good is not only is it on a 30-second cooldown, but when you talent into Earth Grab Totem, it has a synergistic coordination between Earthbind Totem, where it also gives you a root when you use your Earthbind Totem. Now if you're playing with Voodoo Totem or Lightning Surge Totem, you will not actually get a root on Earthbind. You have to be playing with Earth Grab. And this is extremely good because a lot of times when you're playing these melee teams, having those two roots that you can just drop down instantaneously, not only for the initial root but also the slow afterwards, gives you a lot of mobility. You can drop down a root, go into Ghost Wolf, get yourself a little space. Use it for your partners to create a little bit of distance for them as well too. Very handy. I find myself 90% of the time playing with Earth Grab Totem. There are a few situations where you can run cap if you feel like you're fighting against a team comp and your team comp doesn't bring any stuns to the table, and you could benefit from losing out on the Novas and the peels for yourself to go with something that gives you stun potential, maybe on a healer, maybe to lock down DPS for a kill, or even against casters. Usually that's the position I find myself in where I'm using Cap Totem, is if I'm going against a caster team and I feel like I wouldn't need to necessarily have the roots to get hexes, I think Cap Totem can do very well against Warlocks and give them a little bit more lockdown, especially if it's an Affliction Warlock. Just drop it on them, make it a little bit harder for them to get their damage out. And finally, you can also use Voodoo Totem as well too if you're playing against a comp where you're going to want to do like some sort of a cheese way to get your totems. Now, there's cool synergy between this totem and also playing like a Resto Druid where they get a mass entanglement spell where they can root people instantaneously. If you coordinate that with a Voodoo Totem, they will actually sit it instantaneously for 8 seconds and they won't be able to move in it with the root in place from the Druid. So there is some cool like synergistic spells that work with Voodoo Totem, but I think that when you're playing with this talent specifically, you're gonna want to have a game plan and a pretty specific reason why you're using it. It's a pretty like tech talent in terms of using it, because I think most of the time your fluidity is going to go great with using Earth Grab Totem. It's good for your team. You have 2 roots down on 30-second cooldowns. I think out of the 3 talents, by far the most viable. Moving into your 60 row, this is completely a no-brainer. Ancestral Swiftness takes the cake by far. 10% haste is just completely insane. Also on your dots, having it for your heals, having it for your casted damage, as well as also speeding up your proc rates and having faster hexes. Absolutely insane. This is a no-brainer pick for the 60 row every single time. Now moving into your 75 row, specifically in arenas, all of the time you're going to be taking Ice Fury. And Ice Fury is going to do a little bit of damage when you cast it, but the big catch is it's going to do 4 Frost Shocks after the fact that do 400% increased damage. Now you want to make sure when you're using your Ice Fury, you have a high amount of Maelstrom available so that when you're spending your Frost Shock damage, you're able to rotate through and make sure that you're topped off on the top end, giving you 20 every single time to be able to benefit from the max amount of damage using your Frost Shocks. Then, moving into your 90 row, Aftershock is going to be, once again, a pretty much must-take in most situations. It's giving you 25% of all Maelstrom back refunded. And this combos very well with a spell like Ice Fury. When you cast Ice Fury and you start using your Frost Shocks for 20 Maelstrom, it's going to give you 5 back every single time, which is going to allow you to do more consistent damage, especially with your instant cast spells, which is extremely important as Elemental Shaman. Now, finally, you're going to want to take Lightning Rod in your 100 row as a no-brainer pick. Lightning Rod is absolutely insane. So basically how the spell works is your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning have a 30% chance for your main target to become a Lightning Rod. And when they are a Lightning Rod, they are going to take 40% of all of the damage you are doing with your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning directed onto that main target. So, for example, if you have 3 targets and you're using Chain Lightning and the main target turns into a Lightning Rod, they're going to take 40% of the damage you're doing with your Chain Lightning on the other 2 targets and redirect it into the main target for high amounts of burst pressure. This spell combos very well with our artifact weapon, which is Stormkeepers. So when we have a Lightning Rod up, if possible, you want to sync that with Stormkeepers to get maximum benefit if you're going to go for Chain Lightning, as you will be able to have the enemy team grouped up, Lightning Rod proc on the target, and then use your Stormkeepers into huge grouped up Chain Lightning, and you will absolutely evaporate your opponent. Moving into our Honor talents, this is a little bit different for Elemental Shaman, and it kind of depends match to match what you want to go. So, more often than not, I'm usually playing with Trinket or Relentless if I am being trained. So if I'm going against comps where consistently they're going to have a lot of stuns and a lot of lockdown for me, I'm going to go with Relentless, as it just reduces the amount of crowd control I'm taking, makes it a little bit less annoying, and when DRs come through on stuns and whatnot, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to deal with. But I do often find myself as well using Trinket as well too, especially with some of the comps that are doing very well on ladder. For example, every time that I play Walking Dead when I'm playing against Windwalker DK, I'm almost always going as Gladiator's Medallion because it's important for me to have Trinket for when they have their Monk go with Serenity and massive damage going into that. If I'm not able to Trinket wall that go, it is a massive amount of damage that I'm going to take. So in that situation, even though Relentless would seem good because of how many Fist of Fury stuns I'm eating and how much lockdown they have available, actually for my case scenario, it's good to be able to get out of their one go, which is going to hurt me the most, which is their Serenity go, where they have a lot of damage stacked up with Touch of Death, massive damage. So being able to get out of that is good. Majority of the time, you're going to want to go Relentless if you're getting trained just to make things less annoying, but keep in mind there are going to be some comps where you can consider going with Gladiator's Medallion. Even playing against something like Demon Hunters and DKs where they're partnered together and the Demon Hunter goes into meta, sometimes you can play Trinket against that as well too to help take away from that edgy burst that the Demon Hunter does immediately when he goes into meta. That can be helpful as well too. Now, if I'm not being trained as the main target, then I'm going to be running as Adaptation because Adaptation is extremely good to get out of CC very quickly. You can also consider as well too running Relentless in this situation depending on what team comp you're fighting. A lot of the time that I'm running Relentless is I'm going to be fighting against something like Mage, Warlock, where I'm just going to be eating a lot of CC. But I do really like running Adaptation specifically when I'm playing against Resto Druids because it gets me out of their Cyclones on a minute cooldown. Can also be very good against Warriors as well too to get out of their fears. If you feel like you can prevent a lot of the damage, having that there for fear can be very helpful as well too. When they leap on you and cast that instant fear, it's pretty hard to prevent that, and being able to get against that when you're playing against Warriors where you're not the main target, I think can be helpful as well too. Now, moving into our next row, this is once again, most of the time completely a no-brainer. You're going to want to go with Mind Quickness. Now, Mind Quickness is giving you 6% haste. So on top of Ancestral Swiftness, Mind Quickness is giving us 6% haste. So that's 16 in total. The other two talents are just not that great. Train of Thought, we're almost always being hit in arenas. We're usually the main target. If not, we're still going to take some damage, so this just doesn't work out very well. The 15% damage, not good enough because of how often you get hit in PvP. And your critical strike chance is not as important on an Elemental Shaman. It's not like we have a Chaos Bolt or something like that that's going to really chunk super hard as a big spell. A lot of our damage is consistent, and even when we have bursts up like Stormkeepers and Ice Fury, it's consistent damage, and it's usually after we have the target below 80% health. So Mind Quickness is going to be the way to go here as well too when we're playing Elemental. Now, moving into our Totem row. Almost all of the time, you're going to want to play with Sky Fury. And I'm going to make a note here as well too to say, as often as you can, when you're using your Sky Fury, try to sync it up when you're going to use your Stormkeeper. You can do an insane amount of damage with the extra crit that you get from Sky Fury. It just sinks the damage so well, and you can really burst hard onto your targets. Also keep in mind that this is not only helping you, this is helping everyone on your team. 30% crit is a lot of crit, and it's a 40-yard radius. And this is very helpful for every single player on your team, whether it be your healer to your DPS. You just start seeing very high numbers with it down. And if you're playing against an Elemental Shaman, you want to make sure that you are going out of your way to kill Sky Fury, just like you are with Counter-Strike Totem. Now, in some situations, you can run Counter-Strike Totem. If you're playing against a team where you feel like you can really punish them for having a high burst damage comp and they may not see it as another sort of like defensive for you, it can work out too. Like this can be very good against Windwalker. DK can also do well against Demon Hunters as well too if they're coming in for very high burst damage, and if they don't see it, they're going to take a high amount of damage back. It can work in those specific situations, but even in those cases as well too, a lot of the time I still find myself running as Sky Fury Totem just because of the sheer damage it puts out for not only myself but all of my teammates as well too. Very valuable totem. It also has a little bit more health than just instantaneously having 1 health and dying on Counter-Strike as well too, which just makes it a little bit harder for the enemies to kill. Now, moving into your 4th row in the honor talents, Swelling Waves is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And for those of you guys that haven't gotten here yet on your Elemental Shaman or you're leveling up your honor talents, it is night and day, a massive difference compared to the other two. Now, I do like Purifying Waters, and I think that in some situations you can run this. And whenever you purge a target or when you are dispelled, you get healed for 5% of your total health. So there are situations where that can be good if you find yourself being offensive and purging a lot. You're getting a lot of dispels. Maybe you're playing against a rock comp. I think Purifying Waters can be okay, but honestly, even against when you're playing a rot team situationally, I think that Swelling Waves is just better. Being able to Healing Surge myself for like 200k and then get a second 200k that's just instantly going to happen 3 seconds later is also another really good way to deal with rot damage. It is insane how tanky you get after having Swelling Waves available to you. I cannot stress that enough. Crazy talent, insanely underrated on Elemental Shaman. You should try it out if you already are not. Moving into the 5th row of talents, you're going to want to play with Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice increases the amount of damage you do with your Frost Shock by 20%, and your Flame Shock's periodic damage, so your dots, and when it actually tick, gives you 3 Maelstrom per. So when you have all the targets dotted in arenas, you're going to be getting a lot of Flame Shock regeneration back through your Maelstrom, which is going to help you out with casting a lot of your other shocks as well too. Now, a lot of people are very tempted in this road to go with Control of Lava. How Control of Lava works is it makes your it makes your Lava Burst do 100% more damage, and your Maelstrom is increased by 30 when you're playing with this as opposed to 12. Now, the catches with this is that it replaces your passive Lava Surge. Now, Lava Surges are passive when we have Flame Shocks up on the target that allows us to get instant procs on our Lava Burst and makes them instant cast. Now, Lava Burst is absolutely insane for how much damage you do in normal arenas, and taking that passive away completely destroys that. So even though you'll be getting higher damage with your Lava Burst, you have to cast it. It's now on an 8-second cooldown, and it cannot be procced as an instant cast, and you no longer get the procs as well too from Lava Surge. So this is absolutely a no-go. You want to play with Fire and Ice. It's a great talent, synergizes very well with Ice Fury. It's a must-pick in this row by far. Finally, let's talk about the last row of Honor talents. Now, the majority of the time, you're going to want to be playing with Earth Fury. And when you use your Earth Shock with 100 Maelstrom, you're going to stun the target for 2 seconds. This is an extremely disruptive spell, kind of like how our Earthquake spell works, where we can put it down in an AoE area and it has a chance to stun the opponents. It's very disruptive, so whether or not it's interrupting something like a Fist of Fury, just hitting a melee target that's on anyone to take them off for a few seconds is very valuable. You can also use it as well, too, to interrupt casts from enemies. So you see a Chaos Bolt coming in, you can use the Earth Fury as kind of like a wind shear to stop that cast, which can be very valuable as well, too. You can also use your Earth Furies as well to set yourself up for hexes. So if you use your Earth Fury onto a healer and then you start casting Hex, you have a 2-second window where you actually have that be able to go off and cast your Hex where they can't move and get away from that. Very cool synergies with the spell, and most of the time you're going to want to play with it. But I'm going to give you another spell to think about as well too, and that's Traveling Storms. Now, I talked about this recently on a video that you guys should definitely check out in more detail if you want to see it applied. But Traveling Storm basically makes it so that your Thunderstorm can now be casted on teammates within 40 yards. So if you're running into a comp, specifically in my case scenario, I like using this against Walking Dead, which is DK Windwalker. Very good against Walking Dead because it gives you a 30-second punt as the cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds, and it can peel anyone on my team. So whether or not I need to use it on my partners and drop it on their location 40 yards away is massive. If I'm not immediately there, it gives some sort of way to deal with Fist of Fury, get them off, buy them a few seconds to be able to recover. It's very nice specifically against that comp when they just have fist after fist after fist after CD after CD. Very helpful to have something on a short CD to help deal with their damage. Now the catch-22 is when you're running with Traveling Storms. If they end up going on you, and you are running Traveling Storms, you cannot use your Thunderstorm while you are stunned. So, whereas normally, if you're not playing with this, you can use this while you are stunned. So even though it's a 45-second cooldown and it's only on yourself, you can use it while you're stunned. Playing with Traveling Storms takes that effect away, and you cannot use it while you're stunned, which is a massive deal if they are training you. You need to consider that when you're playing with this talent, but it can be helpful in situations where you need the extra peel for your teammate. Finally, You have Lightning Lasso, and this spell is just hilarious. I'm a massive fan of this. I turn into a Sith Lord and zap my targets down, chain them to the ground, and make them feel the pain, baby. But, okay, so basically how this spell works is it's a chained, channeled spell where you stun someone in place and you can move around while you're using it, and it stuns them for 6 seconds. So, honestly, most of the time you're not going to play with this. It's a really trolly ability. I would encourage you to try it sometime. This can only really be good in situations where, let's say, they're just going to go like Mongo all in damage, and you feel like you could get their trinket, maybe first global. So you use this on them, and they're like, oh my god, what the heck is this ability? And then they just trinket it because it's a 6-second stun, but it doesn't do that much damage. It's really just there as some sort of a troll peel, pretty much. I would like to see this ability actually do a little bit more damage, and I think it would actually see like significant play, but right now it's just not enough damage over time, and to be having to channel it for the 6-second stun, just really not that good enough. But it is a really fun talent. I'd like to see the damage get buffed on it, and I think it can do very well in PvP. Very fun spell to play. If you haven't tried it yet, would encourage you to. Dudes, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I am out. I hope you found this video helpful. I know a lot of people have been requesting for it, so make sure to leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below, homie G's. I will catch you guys on the next video or on the live stream during the afternoon. Peace, boys. Later, everyone.